Back in the mid to late 80s, before Nintendo was handing out takedowns like this was Burnout 3, they were handing out L's to all of the other video game companies on the planet. In 1990, roughly 1 out of every 3 American households had a Nintendo Entertainment System. Of course, Nintendo is still killing it right now with over 100 million Switch units sold, but it was different back then. In 1990, Nintendo estimatedly held over 90% of the entire gaming market. They weren't even that successful back when weird old guys were coming to your house saying they want to play with you.
We would like to play.
But back in the day, when they were running things, they had a high-profile hater that just couldn't let them shine. That hater was the president of Sega Enterprises, Hayao Nakayama. While Sega was booming in the arcades with games like Hang On, Space Harrier, and Outrun, when it came to the home console market, it was like a JV team versus a varsity squad. Nintendo was invincible. Nintendo actually surpassed Toyota as the #1 most successful Japanese company at the time. Sega had released a few home consoles, but they just weren't hitting. However, Nakayama and Sega thought that maybe with their newest console, the Sega Genesis, they'd be able to grab some of the market share.
Let's go.
Nope, it flopped. Their console launch got slaughtered in Japan by the release of Super Mario Bros. 3. Sega knew that ultimately Nintendo was just too strong in the home front, and if they were going to win, they needed to take hold of the American and Western market.
This new technology made its nationwide debut in Manhattan with Donald Trump on hand.
I beg your pardon?
Sega needed to do something drastic. Nintendo had the industry on lock. Nintendo actually used some pretty heavy-handed strategies like putting third-party developers on exclusive deals to keep them from making games for other consoles without risking their seat at Nintendo's table. Sega tried throwing everything at the wall, hoping something would stick. They tried making games about popular American celebrities and sports figures like John Madden's football, Pat Riley's basketball, go Heat, and Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. They tried telling the American employees to yell some Japanese good luck chant. Seriously. They even tried outright dookying all over Nintendo in advertisements.
16-bit arcade graphics. What Nintendo?
This was absolutely crazy, even back then. Surprisingly, it worked. This edgy marketing scheme, plus the Genesis's lineup of more advanced arcade ports and mature games, gave Sega an air of being for older audiences. A lot of this marketing success is thanks to Sega of America president Michael Katz, who decided to go for a more confrontational style of advertising, after he had success with this style in his previous brand and marketing jobs at Lever Brothers and Coleco. While the Genesis did sell well, around 500,000 units in the first year, it wasn't enough for Sega of Japan, who wanted 1 million units sold, and eventually Katz was let go. He'd be replaced as president by Tom Kalinske, who doubled down on the whole in-your-face marketing strategy. Even though Sega was growing, they were still behind Nintendo. Many retailers like Walmart, Kmart, and Target were still skeptical about the newcomer Sega and decided they wouldn't sell any of their products. To add insult to injury, Nintendo was releasing their own new console, the Super Nintendo. Sega needed a system seller, a hot new mascot to compete with the thick Italian short man, a mascot that could show off the strengths of Sega's console in comparison to Nintendo's new system. The Super Nintendo released 2 years after the Genesis, so in just about every aspect, graphics, sound, memory, it was better. But the one category, the one area where the Genesis was noticeably superior to the Super Nintendo was in its CPU processor. Its processor was faster than the Super Nintendo's, and Sega decided that they were gonna milk that thing till it was dry. That speed would be the basis for their new mascot. Thus, the idea for Sonic the Hedgehog was born. President Nakayama wanted a character that could be a mascot, a household name, an icon, like Mario or Mickey Mouse.
Who's more famous to you, Mickey Mouse or Super Mario?
Mario.
So Nakayama had a contest held within Sega to come up with a new character to represent the company. There were a ton of different designs. The guy who ended up becoming Sonic's character designer, Naoto Oshima, went to Central Park in New York and asked for people's input on his designs as they walked by. The one that ended up being the most popular was his drawing of a hedgehog named Mr. Hedgehog, or Mr. Needlemouse. Sonic's blue color was inspired by the Sega logo, his shoes were inspired by Michael Jackson's Bad album and Santa Claus, and his signature attitude was inspired by Bill Clinton. Wait, what? Sonic was originally a lot edgier, being spikier, being a part of a rock band, and having a human girlfriend? Jeez, I'm glad they scrapped that up.
What?
There's a ton of conflicting stories about the creation of Sonic as a character. Who came up with what idea, why certain aspects of his character were cut, who came up with the color of his shoes. It's crazy. I mean, I get it, Sonic is an insanely popular character, and everyone who had a hand in his development wants a piece of that clout pie. So as to avoid having as much misinformation as possible, I won't delve too much more into that. While Oshima was working on Sonic's design, early builds were already being developed by programmer Yuji Naka. These two guys were basically the original team behind Sonic, though later more people were added to the crew, including level designer Hirokazu Yasuhara. They began as Sega AMA, but would later be known as Sonic Team. Naka and Oshima had worked together before on Sega's Phantasy Star series, and both were beginning to make names for themselves. Naka was a fan of Shigeru Miyamoto, creator of Mario, and he took inspiration from the way Mario could traverse complex levels with a very simple control scheme. Thus, Sonic would only use one single button, along with the directional pad for movement. One of the ideas they had back when Sonic was a rabbit was that the main gameplay of Sonic would revolve around him using his ears to pick up and throw items, kinda like Super Mario Bros. 2. This was difficult to program, so the idea was scrapped. Keep in mind, there were only 8 people working on this game, 8! Sonic 1 was basically a college group project. They were also on a bit of a tight schedule as Sega wanted to get the game out quickly. Eventually, Yasuhara came up with the idea for Sonic to do damage by jumping, which made playing the game with just one button possible. Sonic would roll into a ball using his spikes to hurt enemies. In order to ensure the fast pace of the game, Sonic Team made Sonic's default speed equal to that of Mario's running speed. When playing Mario, Naka wanted to get through levels faster, so he used that as an inspiration in making Sonic. He wanted a game that could be completed faster if you were more skilled. Naka thought people would take things slow first before speeding up after they got better at the game, but to his surprise, everyone who play tested the game tried to go as fast as possible. To accommodate this, Sonic Team implemented the iconic ring system, allowing you to take a hit before you die as long as you have at least one ring. Sonic was so fast that some of the playtesters said he was too fast. Naka even got motion sickness from playing it, and so Sonic was slowed down. The level design was something a ton of time was spent on. While Mario's level design was blocky, Sonic's level design was smooth, making use of slopes and loop-de-loops. The very first level of the game, Green Hill Zone, was constantly redesigned to be perfect, taking several months to be finished. You can tell a ton of redesigns went into this from all of the early game screenshots showing different versions of Green Hill. Yasuhara claims they made over 100 levels for Sonic, but in the final game, we only got 19. There are 6 zones in the game, with each containing 3 levels called acts, and a final boss fight. Yasuhara states, "The features for each zone all have a different concept too, of course. In the first zone, Green Hill, you're shown the basics of Sonic, running, spinning, zooming through narrow paths and passages. That zone equips you with the skills you need for the later stages. Marble Zone is a lava stage, with lava eruptions, fireballs, and stuff like that. It places a higher emphasis on your timing game. Spring Yard features a pinball-style action. It's an energetic stage where we want players to enjoy bouncing around everywhere. Zone 4, Labyrinth, is an underwater area. Sonic is unable to swim, actually. The out-of-breath timer is very important for this zone. It's also a showpiece for the graphics of Sonic the Hedgehog, which we put a lot of effort into for this zone in particular. Moving on to Zone 5, Starlight, is a roller coaster-esque stage. We wanted it to give players the full sense of Sonic's speed. Finally, there is Dr. Eggman's base, and it's a very difficult one, as befits a final stage. In any event, we hope you enjoy trying them all. Designer Reiko Kodama translated Oshima's level art into the pixels we see in the game. Visually, the colors in Green Hill took inspiration from Japanese artist Eizen Suzuki, and the landscape was inspired by California. With the gameplay and visuals being worked on, they also needed someone to do the music. it was eventually decided that Masato Nakamura, a bassist for Japanese pop band Dreams Come True, would do the music. Nakamura had just formed his band, and not long after he was already getting a job to compose for Sonic. He actually worked on Sonic while he was working on his first album. Nakamura stated, "I wanted Sonic to come across as cinematic. I wanted melodies that the player would hum along with as they were playing, dramatic music for when the scenes were intense, climactic music for when the bosses would show up, and then tie it all together with an uplifting theme for the end credits. That was what I knew I wanted it all to be like." Video game music at the time was very simple, but Nakamura wanted to go above and beyond to give Sonic a more emotional experience. This wasn't easy, as the Genesis had a very limited sound chip. This is why old video games have that iconic chiptune beat boop music.
Hey, want to listen to some tunes?
Not only that, but you couldn't just hit the record button and record the music you needed for the game. You either had to code the music in by programming it yourself or use a very primitive audio sequencer. If you guys have ever made music with FL Studio, then it's kind of like making music in that, but just a million times more sucky. Eventually, he got the job done though. After putting all of the pieces together, Sonic the Hedgehog was eventually completed. It was imperative that Sonic did well in America, so before Sonic's development finished, Kalinske came up with a plan to get the Genesis poppin' in the West. Step 1. Lower the price of the Genesis. Step 2. Create a US team to make games targeted towards Americans. Step 3. Continue with the crazy ad campaigns. And the final, most important step, Step 4. Kick Ultra Beast out of here and include the new Sonic the Hedgehog with every purchase of the Sega Genesis. When the higher-ups at Sega of Japan heard Kalinske's proposal, they weren't messing with it at all. So Kalinske was like, well, I guess I better get my LinkedIn profile updated. But before Kalinske could leave, President Nakayama stopped him and told him that he believed in him. So Nakayama agreed to go forward with Kalinske's plan. When coming up with Sega's marketing in America, product manager Madeline Schroeder at Sega of America believed it would be best to alter Sonic's design to make him more appealing to a Western audience. So Sega of America made a few design changes to the Blue Blur. This gave us the American Sonic, drawn by Greg Ray. Sonic looks really shiny, his spikes are more pronounced, and he just looks more cartoony. I prefer the original design, but I can't hate on this. Shinobu Toyota, the executive VP of Sega of America, who acted as a sort of messenger between Sega's American and Japanese branches, said that Sega of Japan was pissed that their design was being changed, and it caused some tension between them and the American branch. Kalinske theorizes that the animosity between Sega of Japan and Sega of America that would unfortunately contribute to the fall of Sega in the latter half of the 90s began with the American branch making changes to the Japanese Sonic design. I'm not sure it was that serious, but who knows? That's a topic for another video. Once all the pieces came together, it was time to release Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega continued their crazy Nintendo hate campaigns, plus they showed off their game at the Consumer Electronics Show in 1991. Sega had a booth with both Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario World, and reportedly 80% of players preferred Sonic. And when the game finally dropped on June 23rd, 1991,
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic.
Sonic.
Sonic. Sonic. Sonic. Sonic.
An 18-year-old was saying that Sonic the Hedgehog made him forget about girls.
it was a smash hit, selling 2 million copies by the end of 1991. Woo! Sonic beat out Mario and led to the Sega Genesis outselling the Super Nintendo that holiday season. Sonic's victory is what allowed Sega to finally break Nintendo's grip on the market and take over the 16-bit era. Nintendo was old, overpriced, and lame. Sega, new, affordable, and cool. Sonic proved that with great games and great marketing, even an underdog can come out on top, leading the way for more companies to come into the gaming market like Sony and Microsoft. I mean, just imagine if Sonic failed and Nintendo just had a monopoly over the gaming market. It wasn't just a victory for Sega, it was a victory for the entire gaming industry. The biggest downside is that Yuji Naka didn't feel he was properly compensated for his genius work on programming Sonic. He received a pay increase, but considering he was instrumental in making Sega billions of dollars, Naka and the rest of Sonic Team should have been treated like kings. To make things worse, Sonic Team weren't even allowed to put their names in the credits. Back in the early days of video games, companies were very strict about not allowing devs to be properly credited. So instead, Sonic Team used pseudonyms. For example, Yuji Naka was U2, Hirokazu Yasuhara was Carol Yas, and Naoto Oshima was Big Island. Sometimes developers would sneak their names in somewhere, like in a bonus room or something, and Naka did just that. Naka actually hid a secret credit screen in the game which you can access with a special code, which properly credits everyone who worked on the game. Fortunately, as the years have gone by, Sonic Team has been properly recognized for their efforts. Many of the members would go on to be big names in Sega and in the gaming industry, and their baby, Sonic the Hedgehog, would become a worldwide icon. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave a like, it takes less than 5 seconds and it really helps the channel grow. If you want to see more videos like this, then please subscribe too, it won't cost you anything. If I got some information in my research wrong, then please let me know in the comments. I would definitely love to be able to correct the video if there's anything wrong. I'm not perfect. With all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, drink water, and have a good one.